power of love, the power of love. Come and listen to the stories that change the way that you see, the things that you hear will help you to feel empowered every day.
Hello and welcome to this episode of The Power of Love, exploring the most forceful. That's a little scary.
The most forceful force.
That's right, exactly. If it's that forceful, I don't think I want it. Take two. Hello and welcome to this episode of The Power of Love, exploring the most powerful force on earth. I'm Saenz, your host, and with me today is Kate Furnish. Kate is a physical therapist who really digs into supporting her clients on loving themselves deeper and more, and she creates programs for that. So welcome, Kate. I've interviewed you before, you've interviewed me, and I love our little love fest that we have on air. So it's exciting you're here.
Thank you. It's so good to be here and see you and always to connect with you, and shout out to all the people listening. My heart is just feeling you all today and so glad to be here with you.
It's beautiful. Thank you. You do a lot of work on surrender. I love that word. Did you hear I said surrender? I love the idea of surrendering because it's really allows us to get to our other spaces. So will you talk to us about surrender and how you use it with people?
Yeah. I love you, Mia. You go right for the heart of things. We didn't dance around it. Let's just go right to the heart of surrender. You know, sometimes when we're struggling to make our life work or struggling to make some aspect of our life work, the last word we want to hear is surrender. It's not working. I have to fight. I have to push through this or run away from it and hide. And those are the opposite, really, of what surrender is. Surrender is a letting go. And, you know, we hear that phrase, let it go. And letting go is very different than letting it go. Letting it go is like people say, oh, you're angry at that person. Let it go. Let it go. You know, and people are like, I don't want to let it go. I'm holding on to it.
Yeah.
But if
it's some power.
yeah. And sometimes they're still processing through something. We're still processing. But if we can let go and allow ourselves to feel what's there, like in the example I said, allow, if you're feeling angry, to be with it. There's a surrender to what is. And in that, there is life.
Mm-hmm.
It's
right.
Yeah. It's that moment of presence and presence with ourselves when we surrender to what it is we don't like or what it is we do like, you know, surrender in pleasure. We're surrendering to the moment that we're experiencing. And when we surrender to the moment that we're experiencing, we are present in that moment. And that is powerful. Then we're actually engaging with life, living life, rather than fighting with or wrestling with or trying to make or control. We just start to live. And what a beautiful way to love ourselves. And working with people on health and well-being, let go and live in surrender.
Makes me think about the moment that I wanted to learn surrender. Who even knows if I have it all down myself, right? But the moment I wanted to learn surrender was when my mom died 4 years ago. And I said, okay, I call God Father. So I said, not Godfather, but I call God Father or Father Mother if I'm really emotional. I said, okay, Father, show me how to surrender, because I didn't want to have to deal with, it's not that I didn't want to have to deal with my mom and my entire life. Well, I guess that's what it was. I wanted to heal it and to move on. It's an interesting space to be because it's a calm space. Can you talk on that? I'm going to actually look up for us and read what surrender is. I didn't even think to have this. And thank goodness that we can find it so fast online here. I'll read it before you go to it. Cease resistance to an enemy or opponent and submit to their authority. So let's read that again. Cease resistance to an enemy or opponent and submit to their authority. That's pretty powerful.
That's pretty powerful. And I think I would resist that definition. Like there's a part of me like, I'm not going to surrender. I'm not going to quit. I'm not going to give up. And we have that in us, right? And even if you think that you've given up and you heard her read that definition, I bet it triggered something in you that wanted to fight and live. Like, I'm not going to surrender. And yet that yielding to an authority higher than ourselves, for me, that would be my spiritual practice. There is a knowledge that knows more than I can know, that guides and loves me. And so that is a surrender to another authority, and it's an authority I trust. And it's not to say you go surrender to anybody you meet, right?
Right.
But if you have a trustworthy authority, and some people would even call it the authority of their own soul. Are you surrendered to the path of your soul, or are you still working towards what you think life is supposed to look like? Or are you feeling and being guided by your soul in surrender to that? What is my purpose here? What is my essence here? Because the purpose doesn't have to be a sentence like, my purpose is to be Miss America. And some people, that is their purpose, right? I mean, I'm not making fun of that. I'm just saying that's a very specific thing. But your purpose is also to be who you are. And what if part of your purpose is to enjoy this life you've been given? Such a novel thought. I mean, so many people are walking around like life is to suffer. I think I was walking around like that for a lot of my life. Being alive meant I was suffering. And there is suffering in life. And even when you introduced, that period of time when your mom was passing, and it brings up your whole life, and you're facing it and dealing with it, and also that desire to heal it and be integrated and whole. There is a process where some of surrender is just realizing that some of life can feel bigger than we are. And then if we allow ourselves to experience it, I'm going to say something radical here. You might find that you're even bigger than the experience. There's even more to you.
I think you would, wouldn't you? Because where does that, for me, the idea of surrender goes back to the word of love. I'm surrendering, relaxing, softening for information to come through, right? Instead of fear. And so what would that be to be able to surrender? If we can deeply surrender to something, for me, it feels like a space of love, whether it's self-love, universal love, unconditional love. It's a space that we drop into where we're not being controlling. We're allowing, I'm going to say it again, love to flow through us. At least that's how I see it.
Yeah.
You see it from that standpoint.
That's really beautiful. And Mia is such a master, right? She can put it into that beautiful phrase. I'm thinking more, of where people might be as they're listening. And as Mia's saying that surrender to that space of love, and that's why I had that image of surrendering to pleasure, right? It requires trust. And it requires the opening to the possibility that we live in a loving universe.
Even though
And
it doesn't always seem loving, right? We have
exactly.
to go further, right?
Yeah. Can we find the love in all of it? And it's easy to, when you're going through a trial, you might look at other people and think, oh, they're not going through a trial. And they might not be in that moment, but no one really gets out of life without some trials,
Mhm.
you know? And so I just want people to hear that and remember that we all have ups and downs, and that is part of life. And the question of surrender, when you can soften into that, can you start to flow with it? And it makes life even feel more loving because you've shifted your perspective to look for the love, to feel the flow in whatever you're going through, even if it's painful or if it's delightful. Can you crack the door to imagine that it's there? And I think the two of us are sitting here to say, we promise it is. We promise it is. Because I think we've both been in that place where we weren't sure.
Mhm. Definitely. Otherwise, surrendering wouldn't be such a mystifying thing, right? It is also like love for some people. It's mystifying. It's a mysterious thing that people want.
Mm,
It's all there for us, but not everybody sees it in the same way.
yeah. And not everybody's been introduced to it in the same way,
Mhm.
right? We all have different messages that we're taught. I mean, we come in with love, but we are taught different messages, and probably from even before we're born, about what love is and how people relate to each other. And what if just for a minute we could just set all that aside, relationships, and just connect to our own hearts and find the love that is there, and explore the idea of beginning with self-love. Then you can start to see it ripple out everywhere.
Mhm.
I wanted to tell just a little story, if I could, about an
Please.
experience like that.
Mhm.
When in March of 2000, I had an accident and I broke my pelvis in 6 places and shattered my elbow and broke a couple ribs, lacerated my spleen. And it was I was on a ski trip. I had graduated from graduate school. I was in my first job. It was like spring break. Got to go on a vacation after years of studying and working. And I hit a tree on this ski trip and had all these fractures. And I remember, I was out when it first happened, and I can go back into those, but there was this moment where I woke up in the hospital the next day, and the sun is streaming in from the windows, and my husband is sitting to the left of me, and I'm sort of in this hospital bed, and this doctor comes bouncing in the door, this big smile on his face, like, right. And he's telling me all the things that have happened, and I'm hearing this list. And I was, and he was announcing that I was pregnant. I was early pregnant at the time and
Yeah.
hadn't known it. And you're just taking that in. And I remember having this super clear decision that this experience would be a miracle in my life. Now, that was not my normal thought process at that time, but it was so overwhelming. I couldn't imagine what this would be. And I think we're at this time in history in 2023. We're on the cusp of something we can't quite imagine, or we're imagining, but we don't know, as the world is changing and shifting, what it's going to be. And that was a moment of surrender for me, but surrender in faith. This experience will be a miracle in my life. And it was tough and it sucked. And I looked for the miracles.
Mm. It's beautiful.
And so I found them. When we got home, we were out of state. I think I was in the hospital a week. When we finally got home, it took 45 minutes to walk the 20 feet from the car to the house to my living room where my parents had placed a hospital bed. And I got in that bed and I could not get in and out by myself. When my husband went back to work the next day, I had to just pray someone would come so I could get up to pee. But I'm laughing a little bit because there's a little humor in that, because I was pretty controlling. I would have needed to know all those things. And I had to just trust that someone would come, or I could call him. He didn't work that far away. But the thing that was miraculous was every day somebody did. Not that I arranged, not that I planned. Someone would show up and I could pee. And that's a pretty basic function.
Yeah.
But that was a miracle to me, that people would show up for me and I would be taken care of and I would be okay. So what looked like a bad situation on the outside taught me a deep lesson of love when I surrendered to it. And I would have missed that. And that's where I think surrender is so powerful, because it joins us with, it puts us in cahoots with love. It lets us say, okay, come put your arm around me and let's see the view together.
That's really lovely. That's really lovely to be able to see it and wait for the miracles to happen. And I believe, listening to you say that was probably the words that I was looking for, regarding my mom's passing and all, that I didn't know that those were the words, but literally that is what we desire to happen when we surrender. We want those miracles to shift us. We want to see them so that we can give gratitude for them. That's a really beautiful, beautiful story.
Thank you. Thank you.
Wow.
Yeah, and gratitude for the miracles, and gratitude for knowing ourselves more deeply through the experience. If we can just stop judging ourselves and trying so hard to be what we think we're supposed to be, maybe we can be free to be who we are. I remember there was a saying, tension is trying to be who you think you're supposed to be, and relaxation is being who you are. Like, feel the expansion in that.
That's mighty powerful, literally, when you look at that. And because it's so powerful, I want you to say it again. You may say it slightly different, but will you share with us that again? Because that's really, really powerful. I could say, back this up, everybody, and watch. But if you could share it again, that's really powerful. That almost feels like that breath of air that we exhale, even when we don't even realize. Like, sometimes we'll go, ah. And then somebody with you will say, well, what was that about? I don't know, but it felt so good. It's one of those exhales that just feels like it clears everything out. What you just spoke of is a very powerful state of being.
Yeah. Tension is being who you is trying to be who you think you should be. And relaxation is being who you are. There is space for you. I promise. And we invite ourselves into, it's a practice.
Yeah.
I'm not saying we have this figured out. It's a constant inviting of yourself into life.
What's a tool or an exercise that you would recommend to somebody to start to experience what surrender is?
Well, you mentioned something about the surrender as a place of peace and quiet for you. And I know sometimes when we try to get quiet at first, What we hear is the noise. We hear the noise that's there, right? And so sometimes people will say that doesn't work for me to quiet down. But I invite you to find, I'll give you 2 doors in. One is just to connect with yourself in a situation instead of trying to figure the right thing out there. I say it's sort of like trying to pick toothpaste if you live in the United States. Even if you pick a brand of toothpaste, there's about 20 varieties, maybe more, of each one. And you're trying to figure it out there, which one, and you're reading them all. And if you're doing that, it's exhausting. But if you know, here's what I want. You might know your brand, you might know what you need sensitivity, or you need no fluoride, or whatever your thing is. Once you know your categories, you can zero in and find it more quickly with less exhaustion. So I invite people the practice of checking in with yourselves, your heart. You might even put your hand on your heart and say to yourself, what do I want? What do I want? It might be something as simple as for dinner. What do I want for dinner? What do I want in this moment? So I invite you to do it. I know Mia's getting in this quiet space, but checking in with yourself. What do I want? You have to find the I first, and then see what's there. Do I want a moment of quiet or movement or noise? We get those moments too. It's all okay.
Yeah. That's brilliant. And truthfully, doesn't it go back to the space of self-love, right? The awareness part. We can't bypass, forego who we are and what our desires are and expect us to pull it up on a whim, like when we're like trying to communicate with ourselves. We have to you got to get to know yourself, guys, so that you can experience the great joys of surrender, of love, of quiet, of stillness, of wildness. It's a state of being. And when you're excited and I almost said wildable and feeling energized, that's also a glorious state of being. And so we want to love and appreciate every experience that we have. It takes us closer to who we are and to knowing, again, what we want. When you ask that question, what do I want? It allows us to become a listener of what we want so that we can experience that. Yeah.
And even courageous in what we want. Sometimes what we wanted was shut down or told it didn't matter, or maybe we're afraid to dream big, right? I just want that, but you really want the big whatever. And what if it's just a relationship with you? You don't even have to take this to another person yet. What if you could just admit to yourself, this is what I want? Imagine your most wonderful vacation and do that for your homework. Just write it up for a page, like what kind of place would you stay? Where would you go? There's no limits on it. And just play that game with yourself to get to know yourself. What would I love? Something might surprise you. Oh, I want to stay in a tree house. I want to be on the beach. I want to, what's going to come out of your heart if you're just playing with no consequence to get to know yourself about what you love. That's what we're talking about. It's playful and curious, and it can take courage to even admit it. I mean, I can have moments that I remember where I just don't even want to admit what I want because I'm afraid I won't get it. I'm afraid it's for other people and not for me. And if I admit it, I might be disappointed. And it would hold me back. And as I love myself more, at least I can admit it to myself. And then maybe I have friends I can share those desires with. And then maybe I even get more courage and I start to go for them and pursue them. It can be a gentle, wonderful process to love ourselves and connect. What do I want? And sometimes it's just, what do I want here? You're in a conflict with someone, you know, and our relationships show us so much about ourselves. Sometimes we're just fighting to be heard or fighting to be right. What do you really want? What really needs to be heard? Can you take a moment to see what your desire is beneath your agenda? Because our agendas sometimes are just our worn habit patterns.
I also think the word agenda, right, as we dig into love or we expand our life, we learn to surrender, an agenda almost has to go to a degree. Depends on what kind, how you're acting about your agenda, right? Because at times it can be manipulative rather than love-based, because an agenda is, don't worry, I'm not going to look it up. An agenda is something we want done rather than being in a natural state of being, perhaps.
And an agenda is all about me. If I bring an agenda to a relationship, you know, and I would have been mortified to admit that even a few years ago, but like now I can see, oh yeah, that's all about what I want, from a place of feeling like I'm not going to get what I want. So I better have an agenda, right? I better know what I want. I better have it all planned out. I better do the right thing so that I get what I want. Or I could surrender and trust and just ask. And if I'm in relationship with someone that never gives me what I want, maybe that's not the right relationship. And there is a tipping point where it changes. Like there's these ways that I have practiced, like an agenda, that it can sound scary to surrender, and yet it is so freeing to surrender, because what it opens you to is more possibility. An agenda can be very narrow. We think it's got to be this way. But what if all we have to know is what we want? We don't have to worry about the how. And if we can let go of the how, then there are many pathways that can come in to lead us to what we want. And so that surrender, again, I keep coming back to that word trust. You know, Albert Einstein said one of the biggest decisions you'll make in life is whether you live in a benevolent universe or not. Can you trust that it's for you, that the universe is for you, that life is for you, even when it doesn't look like it is? And so that question, what do I want, is powerful, because it is connecting you to you. And so it is all about you, but not having to force that, just getting to be that. And the other touchstone I wanted to give you to surrender is, there's a mantra I used to use, and I still do. There is a peace within me that cannot be disturbed. I want to invite you into that just for a moment. And I'm going to say it 3 times. And I want you to find a peace within your body somewhere. It could be tiny. It could be huge. It doesn't matter. Just find in you a peace. There is a peace within me that cannot be disturbed. There is a peace within me that cannot be disturbed. There is a peace within me that cannot be disturbed. And I invite you in love to go to that place when you need peace, instead of going without.
It's beautiful. Thank you. Can you believe that we are past our time? Like, I can see the clock and I'm like, no, this is too good. But, okay, since we are a little bit past, we're just going to jump to asking you, and you've shared so much, but is there something that you would like to leave specifically the audience with in addition to, because I am wrapping this up, I don't want to close you off. Is there something that you'd love to share with us?
I just want to thank you for being here and for listening and for opening your hearts to love. I remember being so afraid to do that, being wounded and being afraid to let love in, or afraid it wasn't there for me. And then opening it and being caught by love and having it ever expand in my life from that moment forward. It is so amazing how much I feel loved now compared to when I didn't at all. And so I invite you really to just crack that door open or fling it wide and believe that love is there to come in for you, starting with yourself, loving yourself, which can be as simple as just getting to know yourself. And then let it continue to expand. Know that we're here because of love. We're here because we love you, because we want to bring these messages to you, because we've been there. And we want to hear from people that are even farther, see it even more than we do. We just want it to continue to expand. And I think we're at this critical and important time in human history where we're going to lose or we're going to win, and we're going to win through love.
I agree wholeheartedly. We have to become aware of what love truly means to us. I've been saying for the last 15 years since I've had a pulpit, more or less, or a place to speak publicly, that once we discover ourselves, and I always say it's through self-love, your spiritual journey, all of this, once you discover yourself, your soul's journey is so important that all you want for another is to respect their journey. And during that, when this all happens, this is where wars will end and children soldiers will no longer exist, trafficking will no longer exist. All of the stuff that makes our planet dysfunctioning and not in love or harmony will disappear as each person grows within themselves.
As we love ourselves, so we can love another.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. How can people reach you? Would you like to give your info here?
Yeah, you can email me. I'm at kate@mysanctuarysource.com. I'm sure Mia will have a link there below the video. So please feel free to reach out personally if you would like to. You can go to my website at mysanctuarysource.com and fill out a contact form if you want to be on my email list and get some inspiring emails each week, and be connected to the community. Remember, when you surrender, even if it feels like you're surrendering to something hard, as that washes through, what's on the bottom is your joy, and it allows it to rise. So I invite you to surrender today to love, to life, to the goodness. Look for the goodness and find it.
Look for the goodness and find it. Beautiful. Thank you, Kate. And everything is in the credits when we're done. It's not being put down below. So people are looking, where is it? It's in the credits. So just hold on. You'll get to those in just a minute. Thanks again, Kate, for joining us. It was really lovely. Very, very powerful.
Thank you.
And thank you all. We appreciate you being here and listening. And let us know what you have gleaned from this, or what you learned from this episode or any of the episodes in the series. Have a beautiful day.